Barnaby Buckleberry was a bookish badger, the kind of badger who loved nothing more than curling up with a good novel. He'd read all about daring adventures, outlandish quests, and courageous heroes, but he never expected to have one of his own. One crisp autumn afternoon, Barnaby was cozied up in his favorite armchair, reading a particularly thrilling tale when he heard a timid knock at the door. Startled, Barnaby nearly jumped out of his skin. Putting down his book, he padded to the entrance, opened it, and peered outside. There on his doorstep sat a small package tied up with a crimson ribbon. A little note was attached, and in elegant looping letters, it said, and there perched on a cushion, blinking up at him sleepily, was a baby dragon no bigger than his paw. The dragon yawned, revealing a set of impossibly cute baby teeth. "I must look rather dashing, don't you think? A tiny dragon delivering a message. See, I have an urgent delivery to make, but my wings are not yet strong enough for such a long journey. But why would you go to her? She doesn't know you. You see, this lovely ladybird lives at the top of Whispering Willow. That's the tallest tree in the Whisperwood." He pointed with his snout. "And I have a very important message for her." It reminded him of his own mother, always fretting over his safety. How could he refuse such a sweet request? "Now, are you going to help me or simply stand there gaping?" From behind a nearby log, 3 pairs of beady eyes watched them approach. This was not the quiet, cozy life he had envisioned for himself. "Leave us alone," he snapped, even though his voice trembled slightly. "You're outnumbered and outmatched. And that cute little dragon looks like he's just asking to be roasted." But something about Ember's infectious enthusiasm was starting to rub off on him. Maybe an adventure wasn't so bad after all. The forest wrestled with the secrets of the whispering trees, their leaves murmuring tales as old as time. "Don't worry," chirped Ember, nuzzling against Barnaby's cheek. "I may be small, but I'm mighty. Besides, you're here to protect me, aren't you?" Finally, the light-filled clearing appeared before them. And there, perched on a leaf as big as a blanket, was the most beautiful ladybug Barnaby had ever seen. Her shell glimmered with every color imaginable, and a pair of delicate wings fluttered atop her head. He beamed up at Barnaby, his eyes shining with trust. "All right, you got us," said the fox, holding his paws up in mock surrender. "Everyone in the Whisperwood knows the name of the kind soul who rescues baby dragons from perilous journeys. We'll leave you be. For now, that is. Look, Mama, I made a new friend." Before he could say another word, a deep voice boomed through the trees. "Thank you for bringing my little one back to me safely. I am in your debt, Barnaby Buckleberry. Who dares disturb my son?" Emerging from the foliage was the largest dragon Barnaby had ever seen. Now, you two lovebirds have fun, but don't forget your manners. It was awfully rude of us to keep you waiting, wasn't it, Ember?" Her scales shone like polished emeralds, and smoke curled from her nostrils. Of course he would protect Ember. It was the least he could do after agreeing to help him. "I just wanted to show you how brave you could be. What a precious little dragon. And you must be Barnaby Buckleberry. This has been an adventure I needed, a bit of excitement to spice up my life." And purple, Barnaby Buckleberry, the once bookish and timid badger, sat among the dragons, feeling braver and more alive than he ever had before. He learned that day that true heroism wasn't about size or strength, but about the courage to help others, no matter how daunting the task. "I've been so caught up in my books, I forgot there was more to the world than stories." And perhaps this grand adventure would turn out to be the exciting escapade he had been missing in his life. "It is a message from my mother. She'll be with us shortly," she called back over her shoulder. With a final snarl from the bear, the 3 villains disappeared into the undergrowth. But it takes all kinds of heroes to save the day, big and small. Sunlight dripped through the canopy, painting dappled patterns on the forest floor as Barnaby and Ember made their way deeper into the woods. He paused, tilting his head. "Wait, where are my manners? My name is Ember." Ember sparked gloom. "And I need your assistance, kind sir." Surely a kind soul like yourself won't refuse, especially since helping me means helping my mother. Its scales shimmered like amethysts, and its wings, folded neatly behind its back, were tipped with the softest down. It belonged to a weasel, sleek and sly, with a wicked gleam in his eye. Beside him, a fox with fur as red as the setting sun licked his chops. A dragon, you say? How scrumptious, he said, eyeing Ember hungrily. And finally, a gruff voice rumbled, looks like dinner's gonna find us tonight. It was a bear, big and burly, with claws like grappling hooks. Ember, how did you get into my house? Dragons aren't known for their petite statures. For the kind soul who finds me, please deliver this to Barnaby Buckleberry. It is of utmost importance. Curiosity piqued, Barnaby carefully unwrapped the package. Inside, nestled in a bed of straw, was a wooden box adorned with silver stars. As he lifted the lid, a soft light spilled out, bathing the room in an ethereal glow. And then from the corner, a tiny voice squeaked, "Hello, anyone home?" Startled, Barnaby jumped back. "Oh, my," stammered Barnaby, unsure what to do. Barnaby found himself utterly charmed by the cheeky dragonet. But he couldn't shake off a nagging question. Ember puffed out his chest importantly. "I simply used my dragon magic." Barnaby chuckled, realizing he had been staring. "Of course, little dragon. What can I do for you?" Ember beamed, showing off a mouthful of tiny teeth. "Splendid." Barnaby looked towards the window. Sure enough, atop the highest branch of the Whisperwood's tallest tree, Ladybird sat regally. "Precisely why you're needed," said Ember. "You will take me to her." Barnaby's heart melted. Ember's mother. He knew how protective dragon mothers could be. And so, scooping Ember into his paws, Barnaby set off toward the Whisperwood. They walked in companionable silence for a while, Barnaby lost in thought. Then suddenly, a mischievous giggle echoed through the trees, followed by a chorus of raucous laughter. Well, what do we have here?" "A badger and a baby dragon," sneered the first voice. Fear pricked at Barnaby, but he stood his ground. The weasel let out a harsh bark, a laugh. "What are you gonna do, little badger?" Ember puffed up, sending a mini fireball arcing toward their attackers. The weasel yelped, diving for cover. Barnaby let out a shaky breath. "That was close," he whispered, more to himself than to Ember. Touched by the dragonet's faith in him, Barnaby couldn't help but smile. As they continued on, the trees grew taller, their branches intertwining overhead to form a leafy tunnel. My, she exclaimed, peering down at Ember. Ember nodded vigorously. "Indeed. Please, Ladybird, take this." He dropped a small scroll into her outstretched hand. With a regal nod, the ladybird took flight, disappearing between the leaves. Barnaby couldn't help but ask, "Wait, how did you know my name?" The ladybird landed on a twig, regarding him curiously. "Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Buckleberry." Barnaby blushed, embarrassed that he hadn't noticed the whispers circulating about him. At the sight of his mother, Ember flew into her open paws, chirping excitedly. The dragon looked down at Barnaby, her expression softening. And with that, she nudged Ember playfully, sending him tumbling through the air. The little dragon blushed, his earlier bravado forgotten. "Sorry, Barnaby. I didn't mean to trick you into an adventure." Barnaby ruffled Ember's scales with his paw. "No, you don't understand." The dragon smiled, her eyes twinkling. "See, Barnaby, even dragons need a little help sometimes." And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange,